We've entered in a world where human judgment is no longer only the force behind decisions. Data and algorithms now play a powerful role in shaping outcomes. So the question is, what does it mean to be an expert in the age of AI? When machines can analyze faster, predict better, and even learn on their own, where does human expertise truly stand? At the University of Manchester, these are the questions that matter. Not just how technology evolves, but how we as professionals and leaders evolve with it. In today's masterclass, Experts in the Age of AI and Algorithms, we explore the shifting balance between human judgment and machine intelligence and what it takes to remain relevant, credible, and impactful in a world driven by data. Because this is not about competing with AI, it's about understanding how to work alongside it, challenge it, and lead with it. If you ever wondered how to the future proof your expertise, how to stay ahead in algorithm driven world and how to make decisions that go beyond what machine can compute, then this session is for you. Because the future won't be defined by AI alone, it will be defined by those who know how to use it wisely. A very good evening to everyone and welcome to the University of Manchester Dubai Masterclass Series. My name is Joseph Ranyola. It is a pleasure to have all of you and joining us today. This series is designed to give you a real taste of the thinking, the conversation, and the insights that shapes today's global business leaders. And today's session is no exception. But before we begin, let's make a moment to explore the University of Manchester not just as a university, but as a dynamic city, a world-class institution, and a truly global network shaping ideas, innovation, and impact across the world. Committed to world class research, outstanding teaching and learning experience, and the unwavering social responsibility, the University of Manchester has long standing legacy of excellence, not just in education, but in shaping the world as we know it. Part of the prestigious Russell Group and one of the UK's largest and most respected universities, established in 1824, a long successful 200 years of making a difference. Home to 26 Nobel Prize winners and to the groundbreaking discoveries from splitting the atom to the discovery of graphene. Today, the legacy continues to be recognized globally, ranked among the top universities in the UK, Europe, and the world. And when it comes to business education, our MBA stands amongst the elite. Triple accredited by AMBA, AACSB, and EQUIS, placing us in less than 1% of all the business schools in the world. But beyond the rankings, the recognition, and the accolades, what truly defines Manchester is its commitment to developing individuals who don't just adapt to change, but lead it. The University of Manchester has consistently led the way in global higher education, not just through academic excellence, but through its real world impact. Since the rankings began in 2019, the University of Manchester has been a standout performer. In fact, we're proud to be the only university globally to have ranked in the top 10 every single year. First in the UK, first in Europe, second in the world, a reflection of how long term commitment to creating positive social and environmental change. Here in the Middle East, the University of Manchester opened in Dubai Knowledge Park in 2006. And today, we're proudly celebrating our 20 years of excellence of Stronger Together. Our community is truly global with over 112 nationalities, more than 2,600 graduates, and over 3,700 students supported. We're also connected to a thriving network of 5,500 alumni, actively fostering meaningful professional connection across the region. As the largest and the fastest growing international hub with the Alliance Manchester Business Schools Global Network, we are part of a truly international presence with centers in the cities such as Shanghai, in Hong Kong, in Singapore, and of course our home campus in Manchester. We offer a range of programs including MSc Financial Management, MA Education Leadership and Practice, our Global Part-Time MBA, our Global Executive MBA, and Executive Education designed to support professionals at every stage of their journey. And most recently, the University of Manchester Dubai has achieved a significant milestone, being granted institutional licensure by the UAE Ministry of Higher Education and full program accreditation by the Commission for Academic Accreditation. A proud moment and a testament to our continued commitment to excellence. Now, if you're not keen yet in committing to a 2-year program, the University of Manchester executive education programs are designed for managers and leaders, delivered through intensive face-to-face session over 4 to 5 days. Participants can take courses individually with the option to earn a Manchester Professional Diploma in Leadership after completing 4 courses, and each course also provides a digital badge. Program fees range from 3,990 starting pounds to 5,500, with a current 15% discount available on all executive educational courses. Kindly see the upcoming courses. I'll give you time to scan the QR code for more information and avail the 15% off. Okay. And now, the moment we are all waiting for. Let's meet our guests for today. He's a senior lecturer at Alliance Manchester Business School, the University of Manchester, with expertise spanning economics, artificial intelligence, and the digital economy. His teaching and research focus on how emerging technologies are reshaping business strategy, decision making, and competitive advantage in a rapidly evolving global landscape. With extensive academic and industry experience, he brings a practical and forward-looking perspective to topics such as AI-driven and transformation, data-informed strategy, and the future of work. He's known for delivering engaging and thought-provoking sessions that bring theory with real-world application, helping professionals and organizations navigate the complexities of the digital age. Ladies and gentlemen, it's truly an honor to introduce to you. Please help me welcome Professor Reza Salehnejad. Professor, good evening to you, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Give me a moment, please. Thank you so much. Okay, so give me a second because
no worries. We're just preparing his presentation for everybody. Go ahead.
So yeah.
Yes, for everybody, we would like to ask questions later on. We will entertain questions later on as we conclude the presentation of Professor Reza. Yes, the chat box is open for everybody. If you're worried about that, we can see your chat. Just send it to everybody. It's not limited only to us. We get to see the questions, of course, and we will let you know if we have more time to entertain those questions. But for sure, we will have more time for it. Yes. I just wait for Professor Essa to set up.
So, I mean, could you, am I sharing or not? You're not seeing my, are you seeing my, okay.
There we go, sir. I think it's opening now.
You see it, am I right?
There we go.
Yes, we can see your screen, Professor.
Go ahead, Professor.
Good. Thank you so much. Okay, so so I'm going to talk today regarding expert in the age of AI algorithm. Is quite one of the hottest topics that we have in the field of AI advanced. The literature is not yet settled down. The cases are not there. But I think because of the importance of the topic, it's good to reflect on it. So the first part of my topic would be a little bit theoretical, so you need to be patient with me for basically 10-15 minutes to lay down the foundation. And once I lay down the foundations, I basically also discuss some practical cases, some case studies, and also highlight some of the emerging opportunities. And one of the key concepts that I'm going to introduce, and that's a fascinating concept at the forefront of AI, is the concept of synthetic expert, and how basically these technologies enable us to replicate basically the expert and introduce synthetic expert into the organization, and what would happen when we introduce synthetic expert into organization, what basically how that reform and reorganize the firm. So a little bit explaining the importance of basically, so before everything else, I'm going to explain a little bit regarding how to think about a modern basically generation of AI, the kind of generation that we have been basically seeing and experiencing and using it since 2022, the kind of capabilities that these technologies have. That's the first part of my talk. And the second, I'm going to dig in and explain what do we mean by expert, and what are the roles and the importance of a human expert in knowledge economies, in modern economies, and in modern firms. And I'm going to give you the good news that experts are quite resilient, and they role and they function will become increasingly important in the age of AI. So AI will not actually replace or substitute expert. The role of the expert in future basic economies would be even more important. And once basically I explained and gave you a few examples, I'm going to discuss the concept of synthetic expert, how we can actually replicate expert at a basically scale so that they can work with human expert and increase the efficiency and the productivity and the performance of human experts. So that's the kind of, the outline for the course, basically the course that I have, for the talk that I have. So not much time to basically reflect on generative AI or AI in general. So the interpretation that we have for these technologies are cognitive automation technologies. So these technologies, both predictive AI that was dominant from 2010 to 2022, and generative AI that has become dominant after 2022, both predictive and generative AI are examples of cognitive automation technologies. These technologies, basically, they try to automate cognitive tasks. And in the past, we had technologies, we had basic automation, but past technologies, they automated manual jobs. But when it's come to predictive AI and generative AI, these technologies attack and address cognitive tasks. So, okay, so that's the kind of introduction. That's more than enough. Let's give you a little bit of a background why basically expert is quite an important concept to discuss. The graph that you see basically is quite a fascinating and famous piece of data that we have that relate to the US. In the US, in 1900, 32%, 33% of the workforce used to work in agriculture. So a large fraction of, society basically used to work in the agriculture. So, but when you look at the configuration of workforce in the US, that's 32 basically, 32 percent has decreased and went down to almost basically 2%. So these days in the US, almost 2% of the population work in agriculture, but in 1900, that basic figure was 32%, 33%. So despite the fact that jobs in the agriculture sector basically were lost, but another type of jobs created. And these days, we have overall the same level of employment that we had in 1900. Indeed, in these days, the level of unemployment in the US is lower than the level of unemployment in 1900. So jobs were lost, but other jobs created. If you look at the blue line represent and capture non-agricultural higher skilled jobs. So we lost jobs in the agricultural sector, but instead what basically emerged was non-agricultural higher skilled jobs. So again, another piece of data that is enable us to appreciate the importance of the topic that we're going to discuss today is this. So here, is the the fraction. Basically, that's that come from David Arthur from MIT. It is if you look at, for example, 2018 in the US, And that gives you a kind of a basic feeling what basically how many millions worked in the jobs that existed in 1940. So the blue, the navy, bars represent millions of workers that basically are still working in the kind of jobs that existed in 1940. And the green line represent the basically the additional jobs basically. So if you look at the navy one, for example, in farming and basically in mining in 1940, there were basically 5 or 6 million working in that. In that basically part of the sector. But then the green one is are basically millions of people who are still working in the job that existed in 1940. But what I'm interested in is the red bar. These are the basically jobs that have been created after 1940. And all these jobs that have been created after 1940, almost the majority of them are professional jobs, or basically clerical and administrative jobs, or basically managerial jobs. So what I'm trying to explain is that although jobs were lost in the agricultural sector, but non-agricultural, high skill and cognitive jobs are created in professional sectors, managerial sectors, and so on and on. Another piece of data that help us to understand the importance of experts in modern economies is basically this. If you look at the US as an advanced, mature, industrialized economy, in the US, almost 60% of GDP are paid back to the labor. In Europe, 58% of GDP are paid back to the labor. But when you compare an African country with the US, the percentage of GDP that is paid to the workers basically is much, much less. It's less than 45%. So in advanced economies, the percentage of GDP that are paid to workers are much, much higher than the percentage of GDP which is paid to workers in a less developed country like the majority of African countries. What is the reason for that? Why in Europe, why in the US, a larger fraction of GDP goes into the labor force? The reason is, of course, experts. So economies like the US, the economies like Europe, they are dominated by experts, and of course, experts are quite expensive. Moving on to give you again these examples are adapted from David Arthur from MIT. Okay, so here we have basically two occupations. One occupation helping children to cross the road, crossing guard, and the average salary that a person like him basically received is around $36,000 or $37,000. But on the other side, we have air traffic controller. The salary that she receives is close to $140,000. So the expert is much, much basically more expensive, but they are more or less doing the same thing. So the nature of the job, in a sense, is the same. The crossing guard, helping children to cross the road, but then the air traffic controller helping aircraft to cross without basically smashing each other. So that's but in the case of the air traffic controller, you need lots, basically years of education, years of experience to be able to accomplish that task and basically do that task efficiently. So moving on, so our focus is basically is on the air traffic controller. We want to basically see how AI would transform human expertise. And the reason that I'm interested in human expertise or human expert, because managerial jobs are also examples of human expertise or expert. So if we understand how AI would transform the job of an air traffic controller, we can also understand how AI would transform the job of a manager. So so a little bit become basically around 10 minutes is the concept, and you possibly you fall asleep, but you have to be patient with me. And at the end, I think the whole talk would be rewarding, and you see what's going on in the literature, where we need a little bit of definition, a little bit of a slowdown, discuss the theoretical foundation. But as soon as we cover necessary theoretical foundation, then I start basically discussing some case studies and giving you some good news. So what is the definition of expertise? How the literature defines expertise? So expertise, human expertise, are defined as a specialized knowledge, the kind of knowledge that you do not get in the university. You go to the university and you study for 2 years, 4 years, 5 years, whatever. But the kind of basically, when we talk of human expertise, we refer to a different type of knowledge that are different than the knowledge that you get in university, but built possibly on the top of educations that you receive from the university. So a specialized knowledge that needs basically required to execute a specific task within an occupational bundle. So in the discussion to come, I'm going to discuss basically job or an occupation as a bundle of tasks, and basically within these tasks, and when you look at the expert, the job of the expert is a bundle of tasks, is a set of tasks, but some of these tasks are a specialized knowledge that are essential to execute a specific basic task. So there are two features of expert that we are interested in. So experts are those that are great at certain tasks, and those tasks create economic value. That's the first dimension of expert that we are interested in. But also, an expert must be rare and scarce. If again, so if when everyone is special, no one is special. But experts are those that have access to a specialized knowledge, type of knowledge that is difficult to gain, and consequently, they are rare and scarce. So there are two dimensions of basically expert that we are interested in. So they create economic value, but at the same time, they are scarce and they are not abundant in the society. When we're discussing basically the concept of expert, and we emphasizing that human experts are scarce and rare, this is quite a critical point, because we're going to come back to it and ask this question: how AI would transform human expertise? Would, in the age of AI, expert will remain scarce and rare, or no, or they become abundant? Okay. So so imagine, so I'm going to assume that we have a kind of an intuitive understanding of human expert, and the few next minutes are critical, so you need to stay with me. Yeah, they are theoretical and dry, but be patient with me for another 4 or 5 minutes, and then we're going to basically move to more practical discussion. So when we reflect on expert and a human expert, there are two different types of knowledge that an expert basically have, or two different types of expertise that an expert have. One of them, the literature basically called declarative knowledge. So they know they know the industry, they know the business model in the sector, and they know the facts, they know the concept, they know the principles. They know how basically firms compete with each other. These are examples of declarative knowledge. But at the same time, managers have also other type of basic knowledge, which we call it procedural knowledge. They have other type of basic skills. So for example, they are great, they are flexible, they can basically act on common sense. They can respond to a question quite quickly and fast. Or they have the capability to lead a team, to motivate a team, to incentivize a team. So there are two different basically elements in an expert. They have the knowledge, but they also have competency. That's the distinction that is important for us. Let me move a little bit quite quickly so that we minimize the amount of time that we spend on the theory. So moving on, the basic for my discussion is that we're going to think about basically a job as a bundle of tasks. One of the mistakes that we have in the literature, in the early literature, that when we talked of the impact of AI on the job market, we always basically refer to jobs. AI does not automate jobs. If AI basically have any, basically automate anything, they automate tasks, not jobs. So we're going to think of a job as a collection of tasks, as a bundle of tasks. Okay, that's the first thing. We're also going to distinguish between expert task and inexpert task. Even basically within an expertise, human expertise, some of the things that an expert does, they are not considered as an expert task. So for example, a surgeon also drives. That driving is not considered as an expert task. So okay, so the thinking of a job as a collection of tasks. So let me put everything together to what we have been talking. So we're going to think of an expert as a collection of basically tasks, but we're going to distinguish, as we did, two types of tasks in a human expertise. One are basically knowledge tasks, so they know the theories in finance, economics, or business model. But the other set of tasks that exist within an expertise are considered as competency tasks. That's different. Tacit judgment, execution under constraint, coordination. These are the kind of basically tasks that an expert execute, but this type of tasks they are not knowledge tasks. They are competency tasks. Tacit knowledge, tacit judgment, execution under constraint, coordination. These type of basic tasks exist almost in any human expertise, but their nature is different than the first category, which is the knowledge task. Why this distinction is quite important? I hope basically it's difficult online to emphasize and basically grab the attention, but this slide is so critical for understanding the impact of AI on human expertise. The distinction between knowledge task and competency and know-how task. AI does not deal with competency task. AI is about knowledge task. That's the first thing. If there is any automation, it automates the knowledge task, not the competency task. That's point one. Point two, and is basically what? There are interdependencies between the knowledge task and the competency task. In order to actually do your competency task effectively and sufficiently and superbly, you also need to have the knowledge. So another thing I'm going to emphasize is that these two types of tasks are interdependent. So being great at competency tasks basically needs to actually have the knowledge and be great at the knowledge task. So why this point is critical, the concept of basically interdependencies between the knowledge task and the competency task, is that even if AI actually automate knowledge task, the human expertise cannot be automated for two reasons. First, the competency task and the reliance of competency task on the knowledge task. What AI actually does, it basically enables the expert to become great at the knowledge task and consequently execute and basically do the competency task more efficiently. I'm going to stop here and I'm going to ask basically one or two in the audience to actually summarize what I said. So the argument is this, that there are two types of tasks in an expert and human expert, knowledge task and the competency task. These two are basically interrelated, connected with each other. So even an AI primarily have to do with the knowledge task, and even basically knowledge tasks are automated and substituted by AI. The expert is still basically remain, because doing the you cannot separate competency task from the knowledge task. They are like a bundle. The expert needs basically to have the knowledge in order to does basically what the competency task. Let me stop here sharing, and if I can, someone basically in the audience summarize, so that I basically know that there's a kind of a connection between myself and the discussion. So who is going to basically jump in? The organizers, you have to basically allow one or two of our basic colleagues to jump in and tell us basically something, so that we have a little bit of interaction between us. So we want someone to basically see and repeat what I said, but it doesn't make sense, the nonsense that we have been discussing or not.
Sure.
Is it possible? Is it
Anyone will
possible?
be, of course, anyone will be interested to jump on board. I will allow you to speak, Orgo. We have one person. It's Allah. Allah, hello, Allah. I'll let you
Hello, come
speak, Allah.
on. Of course I know Allah. Absolutely. Good to see your golden hand.
Go ahead, Allah.
Hi, everyone. Can you
Hi.
hear me?
Of course we can. Good to see you. Good to hear
It's
you.
good to hear with you again. And
Yeah.
it's a very nice lecture. So what you were saying is, just to summarize on what you said, is that some jobs disappear, but other jobs are created. So there is no fear of AI replacing the human being jobs. Maybe new jobs will come with AI.
Beautiful.
Secondly, when you talk about competency and knowledge, so they are related to each other. Knowledge can be obtained by AI, but competency is what I think judgment factor is. So competency is more related to human being, which is also needed to manage AI and the knowledge AI has.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Thanks.
Beautiful.
Thank
That's
you.
great. Allah, thank you so much. As always, clever, intelligent. Anyone else in the audience, please? Who is going to raise hand? One
Sure,
or two
we
more.
have Mahmoud Ismail. Let me allow you to speak, please.
Oh,
Thank you, Allah.
absolutely. Oh, thank you, Allah. Thank you.
Go ahead, Mahmoud.
Mahmoud, you have a beautiful hand.
Good evening.
Absolutely.
Good evening, everyone. I am joining this session because of the marvelous Dr. Reza.
Thank you so much. That's very kind of you.
Thank you, sir. I totally agree in a way about that the AI now can replace any knowledge-based tasks. I am an IT guy, and now all the work and all the AI agents
Absolutely.
is replacing the traditional, the daily, the routine tasks that we do day in, day out.
Absolutely.
But as consultants, as experts, as architects, as managers, as leaders, the know-how is currently your main core, but now is part of this core value of yours is how you gonna save the company, and I think you're gonna do this in the next part of the session. It saves the company some money by automating these knowledge-based tasks.
Beautiful.
But
Beautiful.
I am afraid about that the learning curve of the LLM models now gonna jump into also the contextual tasks.
Absolutely. We're going to discuss it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Beautiful. 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 Of course, you're touching a very specific area. Those who have worked with Cloud Code and basically the way that you can use it for basically developing code and the software and these things is quite magical. And I'm going to touch on these. Okay, that's great. Okay, lectures always worried, in particular, basically online, whether basically I'm wasting the time of the beautiful audience, or there's a connection between the speaker and the audience. So your comments basically gave me the confidence to continue. So thank you so much. Absolutely. Let me go back to let's see if we do you have my screen again, please?
Yes. Professor.
Fantastic. So I think this framework that comes from the literature is quite a beautiful framework. The distinction between competency task and also knowledge task, and that the fact that AI addresses the knowledge task, not the competency task, this also telling us what type of job would basically remain, what type of jobs or basically expertise are likely to be automated. Expertise that are only have knowledge tasks and there are no competency tasks in them are more likely to be automated by AI. But expertise that have a mix of competency tasks and also knowledge tasks, this type of expertise are basically would be resilient to automation. So a junior software developer, possibly all of tasks in that basic job, it basically consists of coding and knowledge tasks, and that could be basically automated. But someone basically above him that basically design the system or basically integrate all this code into the system, that basically that his job will be safe. That's the kind of implication that this framework has. Let me give you a kind of a basic examples moving on quite quickly, because I'm going to discuss some basically applied one. Okay. So another concept that is emerging in the literature, and that's quite important, is the concept of messy jobs. By messy job, we mean those basically human experts whose basically job include both knowledge tasks and competency tasks, and there are interdependencies, strong interdependencies between the knowledge task and the competency task. Give you one example of a messy job. So the head of engineering at a manufacturing plant, and that's basically who's basically the job of a person like this is considered as a basically messy job. So what are the different tasks under this job? So the person needs to basically buy the machine, identify the machine that to buy, or lay them down in the plant, negotiate with the workers, negotiate with the top people basically in the organization, mobilize the resources, and to implement it. These are different tasks that this person have, and some of these tasks are competency tasks, and they are not subject to AI automation. But a person like basically the head of engineering at a manufacturing plant needs to have the knowledge as well. Implementing and executing these practical or competency tasks needs a good knowledge of the basic engineering in the context that the person is basically operating. So let me discuss another case before going to the concept of synthetic expert. So basically, Jeff Hinton was the chief basically scientist in Google. He worked on neural network, or that these days are at the heart of modern AI. And he has won Nobel Prize for the work that he has done for AI and also application of a neural network and AI technologies in the healthcare. So in 2016 had a prediction, and the prediction that Jeff Hinton had was this: we should stop training radiologists now. So radiologist is an example of an expert. So his prediction was that AI becoming great and excellent and perfect and superb in interpreting images and scans, and consequently we do not need to train expensive radiologists. That was the prediction. This prediction, of course, have gone wrong. We have had enormous advancement in basically AI when it's come to radiology, but that prediction hasn't yet basically come true. Okay. So why basically Jeff Hinton proved to be wrong, and radiologists have been actually quite resilient to basically advancement in AI. So there have been enormous advancement in basically in AI in the field of radiology. Indeed, more than anywhere else, AI advancement have been in the field of radiologists. So if you look at basically the US in 2024, 78% of all AI-enabled medical devices were basically for radiology. So, I mean, there have been enormous basically progress and significant progress in the field of AI when it's come to radiologies, and 78% of AI-enabled medical devices is basically what was, I mean, in this field, in the field of radiology. So, but what happened to the job? When you look at the data, first, the majority of radiologists in the US these days, in one way or another, they use AI. But at the same time, actually the number of jobs, radiologist jobs in the US actually have gone up, and there are still vacancies. This blue one represents basically the number of vacancies, and we can see, sorry, the number of positions, and also and the red element represents basically positions that are vacant and unfilled, basically unfilled. When you look at again 2020-25, still we have vacancies there. So the prediction that he had did not basically come true. Was basically, proved to be wrong. What is the reason for that? The reason is this: when we look at the basically, so radiologist is a job. Job is a collection of tasks. Some of these tasks are knowledge tasks, but the majority of the tasks in this case are not actually knowledge tasks. So, for example, so interpreting image, that's only 35%, 36% of what a radiologist job basically does. But there are many other tasks that a radiologist basically engage in it, but they are examples of competency tasks. So, for example, office consult basically with other radiologists in difficult cases. They consult with the physicians. Basically, they work with the physicians. They talk to the patient. So these are competency tasks. Also, there is another important point. Normally, basically, AI algorithms, they are quite specialized. They are basically designed for a single task, for the single basically anomaly in the images. And you need to basically have a person in charge that decide which actually AI tool would be suitable for this case. That's the whole thing. So in the case of radiologists, only basically a third of what the radiologist does is interpreting image and knowledge tasks. But a radiologist are engaged in many other tasks that are basically competency tasks, but executing those competency tasks are basically needs to have to be knowledgeable as well, to have the knowledge as well. These tasks cannot be separated from each other. We cannot basically give the interpreting the image to the machine and then redefine the radiologist and confine it to the competency task. Competency task, if you don't have the knowledge, you cannot execute it. This is a beautiful example how to think about the future of expert. That and it telling us how basically AI would contribute to human expertise in the future is by enabling us to do basically the knowledge task more effectively, but at the same time, the job would remain, and the experts become more productive. They can do more, basically when they are equipped with the AI technologies, but the job is likely to be basically safe. Okay. So again, I'm going to basically, before going to the synthetic expert, and that needs basically another 10 minutes, but let's basically slow down for 1 minute and 2 minutes to see if there is any question here, and then we continue.
Yes, Professor, we have a few questions. I think we can accommodate a few right now.
Yes.
How about situation where robots are equipped with knowledge and also able to perform some competency task?
Yeah. Correct. You know, is So depend basically which competency task you are basically you're basically talking on it. So surgery is one of them. So basically in medical sector, that's what I think what basically the person basically has in mind, and the precision that they have when you basically equip basically the robotic system in the medical sector with basically generative AI model, and then the robotic system would be capable of communicating with other devices more efficiently, and of course they can basically carry out certain, like surgery that is considered as basically competency task. This is a very, very basic good question, very, very good question, and a deep question. These are the cases that we have already enormous past data. And because we have enormous past data, we can train the robot. But in many cases, experts dealing with situation that is evolving, and there are not enough basically data to be in the past. We did not have enough data to train the system. So at the end of the day, what basically determines what AI could do or cannot do is data. When we can measure and collect the data, we can eventually automate. But the whole idea is this: in certain contexts, so in many expert tasks are contextual tasks, and in the contextual tasks, often we don't have enough data to automate a robot, for example. So in heart surgery and this type of basically surgeries that we already seen the success of basically robotic system, these are the kind of context that are basically we have enormous data available, and consequently we do. But often expert dealing with unknown situation, with evolving situation that the data is not available, in those cases, expert will be still the king.
Okay, Professor, do we have Mohammed Kamal rose his hand? Maybe
one more, and then we go back and
yes.
finish it. And okay. Yes,
go ahead. Mohammed, would you like to ask a question directly to Professor Reza?
Beautiful. You are muted, Mohammed.
Mohammed?
We need to unmute him. Yeah, good. Great. Go ahead. Could you hear Mohammed?
No, I can't. Okay, we can come back to him. One last, Professor. There's a follow-up question from Yusuf. Can we consider this like another industry evolution, jobs lost and more productive, efficient ones coming?
So this is basically, again, that's a deep question, is whether basically AI is similar to other technologies or basically different than the past technologies. There's a difference between AI and the past technologies. AI are scalable technologies. As soon as you train an algorithm, that algorithm could be used by infinitely many firms, infinitely many individuals. But in the past, if you had a robot, and only one firm basically could use a robotic system. If you had a robotic system, then other firms would not basically be able to use the robotic system. So the bottom line, to be quick, basically for the interest of time, is this, that so this goes back whether basically this technology, AI, is similar to the past technology or not. In the past, when technologies basically arrived, the combination of human and technology created new jobs. Okay, but the technologies that we have in the past were basically were not scalable. But the technologies that we have now, AI, they are scalable. So the combination of human and AI definitely would create new jobs. But whether the rate at which jobs are lost and the rate at which jobs are created will remain the same, I don't have the answer. So, but I can see the framework, but I don't have the answer basically how to think about it. Okay, let me go to the most interesting part of the discussion and then come back. Okay. So could you see my screen again, please?
Yes, Professor.
Okay. So one key concept that we have in the frontiers is the concept of synthetic expert. Synthetic expert basically means that using generative AI to build a digital replica of expert and basically creating a panel of expert that can help human expert. That's the whole idea. So generative AI model that we have, like ChatGPT, like Claude, like Gemini, these are basically the kind of onset that they have. They are broad and general, and they don't have contextual knowledge to serve as an expert. When you ask the question, they answer the question, but often these answers that they have, they are not basically based on contextual information. So in synthetic AI, the aim is to build expert on the top of basically this generative AI model like Claude, Gemini, and so on and on. But equip this AI system with domain specific information. So synthetic AI, what is the working definition that we have? Using LLM, basically generative AI models, to approximate judgment, reasoning, and behavior of domain-based expert to support decisions, predictions, and theory building. Okay. So this is how a synthetic expert basically look like. Is an example of retrieval augmented generation RAG. Those in the audience basically they know it. So the idea is this, that you build a database of the contextual basically information that you have. So for example, you are a firm, you build a database of firm specific data and all the information that you have regarding that firm. And then so you put a question to the system goes into this database and collect and retrieve the relevant data and combine the question plus the information, contextual information, and pass that that question and contextual information to a large language model like Gemini, like Claude, and then create basically the response that and offer you the response. So often basically we put a prompt into the system, but the whole idea of the synthetic expert is that you complement that prompt, that question, with enormous rich contextual information. Okay, it's a very beautiful emerging field, and we could have basically talked about it for multiple hours, but the whole idea. Okay. So the paper that I'm going to discuss is, give you basically one example of this beautiful paper. It's freely available, and they have a new version in 2026 called Simulating the Survey of Professional Forecasters. So it takes me 5 or 6 minutes to explain this beautiful paper, and then you see the basically where the frontiers is and where basically the technology is going, and what are the potential that these technologies have. This paper is beautiful, it's fascinating, and it's magical. Okay. So in the US, basically the Federal Reserve and basically Federal Reserve sends surveys to basically experts in the market to predict future basically economic performance. So the Federal Reserve, the central bank, or basically the subsidiaries of the central bank, have been sending surveys for decades to the expert to predict basically next quarter inflation, next quarter interest rate, next quarter GDP growth, or next quarter employment. So they collect these basic information from experts in the field, and they use these in basically forecasts for their decision making. So what this paper tried to do is to design actually synthetic expert, artificial expert, to predict future basically inflation, future interest rate, future GDP, and try to compare how the prediction of these synthetic AI of a synthetic expert would be different than the predictions of actual expert. Okay, that's right. if we can basically, if the prediction of synthetic expert and AI expert come quite close to professional expert, that give us some confidence that it's possible actually to build artificial experts, synthetic expert, and equip everyone in the firm with a panel of experts to actually improve their decision making. That's the reason this paper is quite critical and is quite important. So as I said, there is a basically survey been executed by the Federal Reserve, which is called basically professional forecast. So since 1968, the Federal Reserve Bank of Philadelphia and others, they've been sending surveys and collecting the data. And these they've been collecting prediction. Basically asking experts to predict different basically variables, economic variables, next quarter, next year, and then so on and on. So what this basically paper has done is beautiful. It got basically access to the name of the expert, and they have collected information on basically these experts. What has been their job, which firm they have been working on it, what was their education degree, female or non-female, when they graduated, what was basically their working trajectory. They collected an enormously rich data set on the expert in the US. And then they build an expert that replicate these characteristics. So therefore, each of these individuals, they collected basically information regarding female, non-female, age, when they were born, where they born, which firm they work, which university they work, and they use this information to define synthetic expert. Okay. So for example, so that's basically how I've done. So they collected data on the education, job title, affiliation, company location, experience, the basically geographic or basically location that they've been living, also social media, whether they are on Twitter, they're LinkedIn, all this information, and they used to define synthetic expert. So in the actual data, that's basically the gender for the real expert. So for example, female or non-female, female, basically the green one is the female, and the reddish one is the male. And what these basically researchers have done, in the synthetic panel that they have built, they try to have the same configuration. So the same for basic graduation year. Which year the expert were graduated, when they were building this synthetic expert, they designed this synthetic expert so that their graduation year will be the same as what the real expert. The same with their education level. What fraction of these basically had PhD or MSc or no degree? The same configuration, the same distribution was preserved among the synthetic expert. And education field, law, finance, and basically manufacturing, whatever. That's what it did. Media participation and the affiliation type that they had. And they used basically these information to define expert and to build expert. So for example, okay, you are a participant on a panel of survey of professional forecaster. Your name is this. You graduated basically from this university. With the education basically for, in this field, and your graduation year was this. Today, basically, you work as this, for example, as a CEO, and you are affiliated, for example, with Apple. All these basic information they use for each individual to define the expert. And then what they did, and they equipped these experts with historical data. So the historical data on GDP growth, historical data on inflation, historical data on interest rate. And then they asked these agents to predict what would be basically next quarter inflation rate or interest rate, and then so on and on. That's basically what they did. Now, lots of basic things you can basically ask, basically AMBS, office in Dubai to have access to this these slide, and also you can see the paper. And here basically what we see. Okay, give you basically one example. So here, I mean, we're comparing the predictions of synthetic AI agent, the average prediction of synthetic AI agent or expert with basically with the real expert. So here we have basically two lines. One is basically gray, the other one is black. And you can see when it's come to predicting next quarter unemployment rate is basically the same. There is no difference between synthetic expert and the real expert. And that's when we go basically to 4 quarters ahead, unemployment 4 quarters ahead, still there's a beautiful match and the beautiful mapping between the two forecasts, the AI forecast, the synthetic expert forecast, and the human forecast. The vertical bar that you see here on the graph represent recession. For example, a recession during basically 2010, the financial crisis, a human expert would have basically predicted that unemployment rate would go up to 10%. The same AI predicted basically this. So the way they have done is this: they have trained AI basically expert with the historical data, but then they asked, I mean, the expert to predict what would happen next year, for which the AI expert does not have any information. So again, when we're predicting real GDP, again, you can see there's a perfect match between human basically predictions, human expert predictions, and AI prediction, both basically next quarter and 4 quarters ahead. The same with when it's come to treasury bills. Again, there's a quite close map and close match between human prediction and AI prediction. What this example is actually telling us, so what is the key takeaway is that expert basically they have a model of their environment. An expert, they have access to the data. Expert, they have tools. But the same basic things you can actually build around a synthetic AI, and then equip the synthetic expert with contextual information, rich contextual information. And when we look at the data, it appears that synthetic AI agents, the prediction that they have are not very far and different from the human basically prediction. So we are basically approaching a time that we can design synthetic expert. So the picture that is emerging in modern firm is that for each expert, we would have basically a panel of experts around him with different personalities, different characteristics, and basically that offer insight and information to the real expert. And so what type of capabilities of basically human expert become quite critical in the future? The kind of basic capability that become quite critical for human expert in the future is having deep knowledge to be able to evaluate and validate the outcome of synthetic expert. Synthetic expert are basically open to error in the same way that we are subject to error, but who are the great experts that who will be in demand in the future are those who are capable of having deep knowledge, in particular contextual, basically industry knowledge, that are capable of assessing and evaluating and validating the outcome of synthetic expert. So, I mean, my thinking is that you need to give the general picture to your intelligent audience, but the audience is intelligent to pick it up from here. So I'm going to stop here, and with a huge thank you for listening basically to this talk.
All right, Professor, let me take this presentation because we have a few questions that they want to ask from you, sir.
Of course.
Let me just mention this to you right now. There's a question, Professor. I believe he is your student back in 2018. His name is Eduardo Autori from Tokyo. He attended your digital economy and big data analytics. He's asking, he wants to know, may I ask whether you have assessed the resource savings and energy cost reduction achieved by AI in labor-intensive bundle of task or task? compared with highly skilled humans working alone?
So no, I don't. And it's a very beautiful question. But it's very important to look at it a different way. That when basically technologies come to the market, they are quite expensive, very, very expensive. Look at, for example, a computer basically in 1950. So you have a laptop in your front. At that time, basically, you need a kind of basically a computer, almost basically 50 tons to do the same computation. It was expensive, basically energy, basically hungry. But these days, we achieve the same level of computation, but at a much, much lower cost. So we should not assume that the cost of these technology would remain the same. So the head of like is AI, Tesla, head of AI, has basically left Tesla, and recently he wrote a basically generative AI model like OpenAI with 250 lines of code that you can run it on your own laptop. We should not actually forget that the cost of this technology would come down. So the answer, unfortunately, no. But what I know from the literature is that the cost that we have. So look at DeepSeek. When DeepSeek came to the market, so they trained DeepSeek at a fraction of basically what OpenAI model was basically done. So the cost will go down quite significantly. That's my answer.
Okay.
No, my apology, no. So
Thank
I
you
don't
for
have the
that.
answer.
All right, Professor. Another one. Time conscious here, but we can ask more questions a little bit. If synthetic experience is having the same prediction of human expert, then what advantages does it bring?
Beautiful. So often basically, imagine you are a CEO, and when you are a CEO and you want to make major decisions, often you need a couple of devil advocates that have a different views. They basically challenge you. So you can actually design synthetic experts that function as a devil advocate. So and bring multiple different views to the board, and then basically you use this view to improve your decision making. The other things basically is this, that synthetic expert can actually digest enormous amount of information in a minute. So for example, they can go and read thousands of conference call paper and collect the information and give you basically the insight from that thousands of pages of information. Humans are not capable of that.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Another one, Professor from Sherry. Industrialization mainly replace manual labor, but AI seems poised to replace or weaken human cognitive work and judgment. And if super intelligence emerges, human expertise itself may no longer be necessary. Does not that make this transformation fundamentally different?
No. The first thing is this. There is a concept of basically AGI. AGI is, the difference between super intelligence and normal intelligence is not linear. It's not that when you reach a linear threshold, you have super basically intelligence. No. Intelligence is multidimensional, is complex. So we at a time we attack one dimension of it, and there are always remaining dimensions. So super intelligence means that we reach to a point that we can basically replicate many dimensions of human intelligence, but still there would be other dimensions. But my point is something else.
Okay. All right.
Goes back just a second. What is the intrinsic limitation of AI? We basically train AI on the data. In areas that we don't have the data, we don't have AI. So that's the key thing. Where we cannot measure, do measurement, and where as consequently we cannot collect the data, we cannot actually train an AI system in that context. And most fascinating cases when it comes to basically business are those cases that are novel cases and we don't have the data and we cannot measure it. So there will be always a room for human. That's my answer.
All right. Thank you, Professor. A couple more. Does AI will have a role in decision making, especially in radiology?
It has absolutely, because again, in multiple different ways. It basically increases the efficiency and productivity of a radiologist in interpreting the images. So it increases the productivity and efficiency of the expert in knowledge task. Okay, but the reason that radiologists remain, because they also have competency tasks to engage and execute, and these two are related to each other. Of course, basically these technologies bring enormous productivity, but basically by making radiologists productive means augmentation, not substitution. You basically, AI would not substitute and the radiologist, because the radiologist does many other tasks that is outside the domain of AI at the moment, at least. And this, but there are interdependencies between the knowledge task and the competency task.
Okay. Thank you, Professor. If ChatGPT and Claude have contextual information feed in them and give answers according to that feed data, how do humans fall in love with these and want to even have killed themselves just by falling in love with this AI chat box? She's saying she still don't understand this.
So, I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure if I understand this question correctly. These AI systems are basically systems that automate the statistics. At the heart of AI is machine learning, and machine learning is a branch of statistics. I don't know basically ever basically automating the statistic will lead to basically to emotions and these things. And I think for me, these system, at least as they look like now, who knows what type of technology that we have. 20 or 30 years ago, we could not imagine a magical technology like ChatGPT or Claude, but now we have it, we work with them. No one knows in the future, but the current technology that we have, these are a statistical machine. They cannot develop basically emotion. And I love them in the sense that they help me, but I don't have any emotional connection. I don't think that I have understood this question, because it is too deep for this old man.
Okay. Thank you, Professor. And I appreciate all the chats and questions. They are communicating in the chat box, which is very, very good. I believe some of them are our alumni community. Thank you for being involved. Last question, Professor, at least for tonight, and this would serve as your parting words from Shiraz El Sayed. I think this is very, very nice question. My question is, as mother, what to advise my kids, which domain to select in university in this
Beautiful,
changing environment?
beautiful, beautiful. It's a very important question. The short question, they need to go for messy jobs. Messy jobs. And what do I mean by messy job? Jobs that are complex, is a complex set of tasks, but they are not only knowledge tasks. Okay, so for example, writing a piece of software is a knowledge task. It has already been automated. And in Google, they say that 75% of their coding are done by the machine. Okay, so messy tasks are those tasks that has a combination. So all those jobs, messy jobs, are those jobs that have a set of complex tasks. Some of them are knowledge tasks that are subject to AI automation, but some of them are basically competency tasks, like leading a team, like basically making fast judgment, basically in the face of unknown environment. This type of jobs, because there are connection between the competency task and the knowledge task, even if AI automate the knowledge task, the job still would remain, because the executing the competency task needs to have a great knowledge and deep knowledge of the field as well. So the example that I gave it to you, the head of an engineering basically department, his job is very, very messy. He needs to know the field, the kind of emerging technologies, but and that's the knowledge things. But you also basically need to be able to communicate with the workers, communicate with the basically top manager team, board, to raise fund, need to incentivize the workers, all these things. The job is a competency task. So go for messy jobs. That's my answer.
Thank you, Professor. It's truly an honor, sir. And a lot
Thanks.
of people in the chat box, sir, are praising your teaching. They have experienced your teaching, sir, and they just want to say thank you.
But these are our assets. These are the best assets. I'm not intelligent, but I am intelligent enough to appreciate that I have a beautiful job, because
Absolutely.
I have the honor and basically the opportunity to basically work with these great people, great minds. So thank you so much.
Absolutely, Professor. And if you want to see Professor Reza face to face, he is teaching strategy and competition as one of the core classes of the MBA program in both global MBA and executive MBA. And at the same time, he is also leading digital economy for the elective course of the University of Manchester. So, Professor, before we end, let me just get a few announcements here.
Thank you.
Yeah. Also, if you want to do the MBA, if you know someone ready to take the next step, refer a friend, colleague, or family member to our master's program, and they'll enjoy a 10% tuition fee discount. And the best part is you'll also get rewarded to it. Share the opportunity, grow together, and be Manchester. And as we continue our masterclass series, we are going to be having our negotiation skill course happening next week at April 30, 2026 at 7 p.m. Please scan the QR code for more information. If you want to learn about MBA as well, please scan the QR code for this. Also, Professor, I just want to say...
yes, please.
This is our socials. If you want to be learn more about our what's happening in our socials and the University of Manchester, Dubai, please scan the QR code for Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And finally, Professor, thank you once again, Professor Reza. And
see you in July.
We will see you in July. So as we close today's session, one thing is clear. The future is not about choosing between humans and machines. It's about how we bring the best of both together.
Absolutely.
Because while algorithms can process data, it's still the human insight, judgment, and purpose that gives it meaning. The real advantage will belong to those who don't just understand AI, but know how to lead with it. At the University of Manchester, these ideas come to life, bringing people together, insights and experiences that challenge the way we see the world. Because in a world of constant change, your greatest advantage is not just what you know, it's how you think, how you adapt, and how you work with others. Stronger ideas, stronger networks, stronger impact, stronger together. On behalf of our founding director, Randa Besizo, and the amazing University of Manchester Dubai team, of course, our very own Reza, for helping us out tonight, sir. Thank you once again. My name is Jose Ranyola. Thank you all for joining us tonight. Keep safe and remember to always to be that change. Until then, masalama everyone. Good night.
Thank you. Thanks everyone. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Take care.